Hi, and welcome to Code Corner. This is a video series we do at Mayfield Renewables where we talk about codes and standards as they relate to the solar and solar plus storage industries. Today I'm going to dive into the 2023 National Electrical Code and specifically 705.11, which is source connections to a service. So that's the title of that section, which was actually a change in the 23 code from 2020. And then even more specifically in this video, I'm going to talk about subparagraph C, which is connections. So there were some changes in 20 that were similar to this. 23 expanded on it a little bit. And one of the things I really want to bring attention to is on these connections, the mechanical connections we're making themselves. So in 2020, there was some changes. It was one of those changes though where they delayed the implementation. So it actually said this is a new rule, but it's not in effect until January 1st, 2023. So that was in the 2020 code. We have now passed that date. So anybody using these code sections would need to be complying with it. So I just kind of want to point that out and make sure that we're all on the same page and actually applying these properly. So with that, this is that first section that shows up. So 705.11c actually has three different subsections. This first one is about splices and taps. And so you can see here the code language, the highlights in our slides, the highlights are changes from the 2020 to the 2023 code. So this just indicates there was some change in that title paragraph. But the splices or taps that we use need to be made in accordance with 230.33 or 230.46. The 230 section is services, and so this is getting into the requirements around connections to services, that's exactly what we're doing. We're making connection to the service conductors, and so we need to follow these rules. The 230.33 basically service conductors shall be permitted to be spliced or tapped in accordance with 110.14, 230.46, and a couple other things in 300. So basically 230.33 is saying, yeah, we can do this. We need to follow some very specific rules, but we can. 230.46 is referenced within 230.33, and you can also see that it's referenced directly here in 705.11. So 230.46, this is where the 2020 change happened that I just mentioned, that it was delayed in implementation. But the general rule here is that power distribution blocks installed on service conductors shall be marked suitable for the line side of the service equipment or equivalent. So we have to have our connections be marked and listed on the service side. So really service rated equipment here. And so what I'm showing in the picture are potentially some options. You need to look at the manufacturer's information. You need to see what listing they've had for their specific blocks. And what you'll notice on these blocks that we're showing, and as of now, early 2024, the only blocks that I know of that are listed are these mechanical type connections. The insulating piercing connections that are popular to use, the type where there are vampires or other names that people use for those, where you put the connection over the conductor and you torque down on a hex head or something, and it pierces that insulation, making the electrical connection for you. I don't know of any that are service rated. I know that manufacturers are trying and they're working on that, but to date, I don't know of any that are out there. So you need to be very careful when you're looking at these. One of the things you'll notice again with these, if you're doing supply side connections, you are likely going to have to call out on the utility to pull from the transformer or pull the meter so that you can make those connections safe, so you can actually get to them, pull the conductors out, put your connections in, and reconnect to the service. So that's an important aspect of this that you need to look at or consider when you're doing the installation as well. So these are very important. The requirements are there now, they're in place, and so this is just something that you're going to have to work with, looking at the different equipment that's out there and making sure the manufacturers have things listed properly. 705.11c does continue on, so there's two more sections. Number 2 gets into existing equipment, and so any modifications to existing equipment shall be made in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, or modification must be field listed and labeled, field evaluated, I should say, for the application and labeled. So this is an example where if you're coming into a piece of gear, and we're showing a picture here where we're inside some gear, and we're on the supply side. If you are going to be adding those lugs, and so the picture that we have there is those lugs were added, those conductors were added for a supply side connection, that is a modification of that equipment. So it has to be done in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions or be field labeled. And so there are ways of getting it field labeled, working with nationally recognized testing labs to be able to verify that you haven't violated the listings. First and foremost, you should be going to the manufacturer. Is there a way to add these connections to the existing equipment and not have to do that extra labeling? But that's the preferred method. And so there are avenues forward. So you can't just be going in and adding lugs just because there's holes in the bus bar. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily mechanically meant for, they weren't designed for adding mechanical lugs, or maybe they were very specific types of lugs. So making sure that you're not altering the existing equipment outside of the manufacturer's original intent is really important. And then the third one for 705.11c talks about utility controlled equipment. So really when we're talking about meter sockets that are under the exclusive control of the utility, you have to get approval from the utility. This is pretty standard stuff. Most utilities are going to go through an interconnection process anyway, and if you wanted to do something like what we're showing on the screen with this meter collar socket, then you would have to get their approval to do that because it's going on the equipment that they own. So shouldn't really be much of a surprise, but that is definitely, it's something that they added specifically into 705.11. And we're starting to see more and more of these meter collar sockets. And so, for both loads and sources. So there's definitely products out there and things that you should be looking at. But again, if you're going to do that, you're now making a connection at the utility-owned equipment, and they're going to have to approve it. All right, so that wraps up 705.11c, what I was wanting to show you. I just wanted to point out, at Mayfield Renewables, we do a lot of education, we do a lot of classes, and so we have classes available on our website. Highly recommend if you'd like to learn more about different topics, especially around codes and standards. We have a number of courses available on our site, and always adding more. So if there's something specific you're looking for, please let us know. And then finally, if you have questions on this topic or others, feel free to reach out. Happy to discuss that with you. If you have topics you'd like to see us cover in a Code Corner, also feel free to call or send us an email. Always looking for more ideas and things that people are looking for to include. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you next time.